Welcome to A Balanced Life on the Go. I'm Dr. Nicole Lindsay, your host on this podcast, along with Dr. Brian Jeanette. This is a podcast designed to help connect you to a more balanced life on the go. Each week, we will bring you simple, concise, and easy to implement ideas, tips, and strategies to help you connect to better nutrition, movement, and thinking so you can achieve balance in your busy life. Isn't this what life is all about? Trying to achieve balance so that we can be healthy, happy, and live to our fullest potential. We're glad you joined us. Let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Podcast number 21, Influencing Your DNA to Express Your Best Health. The topic of epigenetics and an interview with Dr. Melissa Grill-Peterson. Dr. Melissa has been for 20 plus years. She's been a leader in the integrative health and wellness space, redefining how both patients and practitioners optimize their health and life. She is a chiropractor. She's a board certified holistic health doctor. She has a master's of science in health and wellness and a bachelor's in communications. She's a practitioner, business coach, a speaker, author of the book we are all reading in our office this month called Codes of Longevity, and so much more. We'll get to everything else she's into, but she believes in forging the path away from disease care and in optimizing human potential through harnessing our unique, limitless abilities to thrive. Welcome, Dr. Melissa.
Thank you. It's so great to be here.
Thanks for agreeing to do this. I know you have so much on your plate, lots you're doing.
Yeah.
I appreciate this. So how did you get into this field of epigenetics?
Well, I think that, I was always in it and I didn't even know it. And what I mean by that is at a very young age, I started to dance. I was in the gym by the time I was in sixth grade. I was a nutritionist, a fitness instructor, a personal trainer by the time I was, 19. Found my way into chiropractic by the time I was 22, 23. And then from chiropractic, it's the interesting piece that threads this is the dance piece because, and I tell this story, it was kind of a pivotal life moment. I grew up in not the greatest environment. After my parents had gotten divorced when I was young, my mother remarried and my stepfather was quite abusive and we were very poor. We moved kind of from the city with my dad out to this country life on a dirt road, little house, had to use coal to heat, like literally had coal burning, couldn't even afford electricity to heat the house. It was like big, stark contrast of experiences. And I went from having all these comforts and getting to go to my dance classes and, just kind of being a happy, normal kid to all of a sudden being really isolated. All the things I knew were gone. And we're now in this kind of really dark and abusive environment. And the thing I had was my dance. And dance is really, probably it's what saved me. It's what built my life. It's what built my profession. And it's really what led me to epigenetics. And I say this because I think it's really important. We understand, often we talk about epigenetics through the lens of what does it mean scientifically? And we'll dive into that in a moment. And very simply, it's life expressing and informing life. It's how the outer world is informing and influencing our very inner genetic potential. And so as a kid, here I am in this environment. And of course, the conversation for years in genetics has been, is it nature or nurture, right? Like, which is it that really moves the dial of how you are, who you are? And so there I am in this environment. So when we think of epigenetics, we think of environment, signals from the environment. Well, it wasn't an ideal environment in any way. It was quite a stressful environment. And yet I had something inside of me bigger than my environment. I had this love of dance and I had this poster that hung on my wall of a ballerina. And it was the very cliche, but it was, if you can believe it, you can see it, and you can achieve it. And so I had this visual reminder, just saying, believe in something more than what you're seeing right now. And so I was able to believe in something more, even though I couldn't see it, but I knew it because I was experiencing it. And every day I'd go down into my basement and I would dance. I'd put on my point shoes and I would just still dance, you know, kind of to the rhythm of my own drum, if you will. And what I didn't know at that time is that epigenetics were at play. So even though the environment was stressful, it was repressive, there was another part, because it's always life informing life. It's not just the outer world, it is also the inner world. It is our psychology. It is what happens in our physiology. And so I was still doing really positive things for my brain, for my body, for my being, regardless of the negative stressors of the outside. And it kept me little bit by little bit moving forward. And what I mean is kind of following the impulses that spoke from within, regardless of what I was seeing that would have told me otherwise. And so, you know, it just kept moving me. And even in chiropractic, what was interesting is I was at Life University during the time when Dr. Sid Williams was there. And to people, you know, this may mean nothing to some people listening, but he was, you know, really kind of one of the forefathers in the chiropractic profession, if you will. And he was huge into sports. And Dr. Sid had a vision of, you know, we are going to get chiropractic in every household through sports. And he invested a lot of money in his sports teams. And it was, to him, it was super important to have all of it, which means he wanted cheerleaders, he wanted dancers, he wanted the band, he wanted all of it.
State of the art gym too.
It was, yeah, exactly. And so I became a dancer for the university before I ever was enrolled in the program to become a chiropractor. But here's the next piece, is that dance. So I go through chiropractic and I'm dancing, and I choreograph a piece that gets us into the 1996 Olympics, which then that opportunity led me into television, and I was in television for several years. So now all of a sudden, I'm on like the world's largest stages, and this is all super interesting, you guys. And it's there, it's amazing, it's wonderful until it's all gone. And I'm out on the road and I'm back in my practice, out on the road, back in my practice. I'm a chiropractor now. I'm seeing patients. I'm out dancing. I'm out on television. I'm out being an entertainer and a personality and doing interviews and press junkets and all sorts of things everywhere, every week. And then the show ends and my then marriage ends. And here I am. And this is all about how, this is a long answer to a short question about epigenetics. But what we don't understand is, how is life always informing life? And this is why I'm sharing some of the personal everyday things that once I really started to study epigenetics and could kind of look back, if you will, over my life and go, holy OMG, like this has always been here. It's always been present. I didn't have a name. I didn't have a knowledge. I didn't know that regardless, more was possible. And this is what excites me so much, is so that really what happened is, you know, as I was in my practice, and I have all these modalities, because remember, I did nutrition, I did fitness, I did mindset. I'm a master level coach at this point. I did positive psychology and NLP and always looking at the brain body connection. And of course, that's what we do in chiropractic. You know, we're always looking at that autonomic nervous system and how's the brain and the body communicating, and is it communicating effectively and optimally? But what I learned, and we learned back in chiropractic, which isn't commonly spoken about in the traditional healthcare model today, is that it is a multitude of signals. It's not just one input equals one output. I mean, you know, even one adjustment doesn't produce the same effect every single time. Well, why is that? We're different in every moment of every day. And this is truly epigenetics. It is the quality of our signals. And so it's multiple inputs to our system. So it's everything from the air we're breathing, the water we're drinking, the sleep we're getting, the quality of the relationships we have, the thoughts we're thinking, the actions we're taking or not taking. All of these little things stack up, and they're informing our system every single day. They're influencing our system, our expression or repression. And I kept adding on, you know, more and more titles, more and more degrees. It was deep dive. I did functional medicine for years, and that was my practice in Atlanta for a long time. And I just kept saying, this is still just an input and output. There's so much more here that we're not fully understanding, because we try to limit our limitlessness. And that's what I love about epigenetics. It's really understanding that you're not just your genetic blueprint. You're not just a single input. You're not just a stuck moment in time. You're not just your current reality.
Not your diagnosis.
You're not your diagnosis, not even a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You are truly, and I mean, I swear, Dr. Nicole, I feel like I'm an evangelist right now because I'm like, I want to find the words for people to understand the awesomeness of who they are at their core. So let's think for a moment. Everybody understands DNA. They have some understanding of DNA. We know, hey, the DNA is our genetic code, our code of life. We were taught for years, your code is your destiny. Well, that was radically disproven pretty quickly after they thought it was, more than 20 years ago. No, your code is not your destiny. Your code is your blueprint. And the easiest way I can try to explain this to people is think about that you're going to make your favorite recipe. Well, the recipe has ingredients. The ingredients are your code. You just have these letters that come together in certain patterns that can make a recipe, right? So it's not just in the ingredients. Just because the ingredients are there doesn't make the meal. It's
Right.
how much, how little, the temperature, the quality, right? All of it. Do we mix it with love? Do we mix it hurriedly? Do we put a little too much, a little too little? And so really your code is there. It's a potential. And yet what informs it, what activates it, is truly the signals from the outer world. So I do want everybody to know that about 20 to 25% is pretty hardwired in. The color of your eyes and, your jaw structure, things like that. That's going to be that 20, 25% that's solid. But now we have this huge room of potential to say, wait, this other 70% is not set in stone. The 75%, so now what? Which can be exciting and terrifying for people, right?
That also was what intrigued me about reading the book, more when I read that statement. It was such an eye opener. And when I talked to patients about that, they're opened up. They're like, wow, well, what does influence my DNA then? So, so that was huge for me and wanted me to keep turning the pages and reading more and more. And in addition, when I tell patients all the different contributors to the book, I always get, wow, why so many different healthcare providers and practitioners? And I said, well, that's the point, because there's so many different areas to that 75% that's influencing your DNA. So it's not just one thing. It's not just your diet. So you don't want to just bring in, somebody that knows food in. It's your thought process. There's so much to it.
Yeah, I love that you said that. And I actually titled this book very intentionally. So Codes of Longevity. If we think right down to the purest form of all of everything, you and me, the desk we're sitting at, the lights in front of us, the foods we eat, everything at its purest form is just particles of energy, right? That's all it is. And what is energy really? Energy is simply little pockets of information, little frequency vibrating. And so think of all the little particles of energy at our purest form of everything. It's pockets of information. Information is a code. It's just a piece of code. It's a piece of information that's going to tell the program how to run, if you will. And I love that you pointed out, and this is what we all, we weren't taught this. We weren't taught the fact that our very essence, our very nature is that we are a complex system. Now, that doesn't mean that we are complex. It just means we were taught input, output, Newtonian model, linear. So we all have come up with this understanding that life is this, you're born, you die, and everything in between is kind of what makes up your life. And the reality is, and so that's what we keep thinking it is. It's this straight line. It's this keep doing the little steps, and you do it long enough, it'll add up. And there is a part of life that is linear. Sure, that is one path that we can go down. I know if I start here and I go down the road that'll connect me over to your office, I'm going to get there, right? Yet now all of a sudden, just like the authors in the chapter, okay, so what creates? If somebody said, well, Dr. Nicole, how can I create better energy? I'm so tired all the time. You've unpacked that before. Well, let's talk about what impacts your energy. Do you want to start in the mitochondria of the cells? Do you want to go up to the brain? Do you want to go to the gut-brain connection? Do you want to talk about hormones? Do you want to talk about your posture? Do you want to talk about your breath? Do you want to, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden, do you want to talk about how much natural sunlight exposure you're getting? Do you
Right.
want to talk about your movement patterns? Right? Like, and these are the things, and I get it. Like, we're not given an instruction manual. And this is what's also beautiful. On the one hand, it can go like, oh my gosh, there's so much. And that can be exciting and overwhelming. And what I tell people is I love the conversation around longevity because we're so programmed for quick fix. Again, input, output, just give me the result right now. Yet longevity is the long game. And if we really think about a life well lived, it didn't just happen. We didn't just get to the end and go, life well lived,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It was a culmination of all these small moments stacked upon one another. And that's what this book is about. It's saying, look, I don't expect you to do it all. And in fact, the whole last half is a full assessment to say, you know what? You don't have to do this all. Take the assessment and get a sense of what areas are lighting up the most, where the most immediate opportunities exist for you. Because, you know, for one person, it could be you really would benefit from sleep. The next person, it might be, you know what, we've really got an opportunity for nutrition. Oh, for you, we're looking at more advanced levels, and it'd be really appropriate to start to talk about how to add in some peptides and, you know, exosomes and more advanced strategies. We're all in different spaces and places. And that's what's exciting. Like that's what's so exciting. It's why it's very personalized and very precise, and why you can gain so much clarity when you can begin with unlocking your own code.
It's also very empowering because when you think, this is it, I'm middle age, this is as healthy as I'm going to get, this is as good as I'm going to feel, this is as much energy, because that's our story, right? That's what we've been told our whole life.
Yes.
That's what our
Yes.
parents said. That's what aunt and uncle said. That's what our grandparents said. So we think, well, I'm, 40, 46. This is it. This is the best. But it's not, and that's what this is showing us is that, there's no limit, there's no level to the amount of health and healing and vitality that your body can experience. And the more that you add, this is going back to chiropractic too, the core philosophy of chiropractic, the more healthy things that we add into our life, what you're showing us is down to the genetic level. It's building us up to a better, healthier being so that we not just live long, but we live healthfully.
Yes. And I don't know if people can really understand, not that they can't understand this, but I don't know if we fully understand as individuals, because I get inspired every day as I'm always learning and teaching and continuing to share, is that when I say life is informing life, if you think about your genetic code, it's not what was just passed down from your mom and dad. It's what was passed down from their mom and dad and 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 their mom and dad. And we go back hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years. Your code is ancestral life code. All of our code is literally the essence. Like for all of us, it went back to some inception of life. And so think about what is truly in there, how mighty, how magnificent we each are. We literally have codes of kings and queens and rulers and leaders and innovators and creatives and musicians and artists and lovers and leaders and everything in between. And so we are all of it. And it's in our code. Now, we may not be expressing it or know how to in this moment, yet that doesn't mean that it's not there. So we've all been told a story, and it's all in the stories that we tell ourselves and the words that we use to repeat the stories. And the cool thing about a story is at any time, you can add on a new chapter, you can rewrite it, you can close that book and start a whole entire new one. So our words are the first and foremost, most powerful teller of our stories, creator of our reality, because our thoughts truly are things. They truly do inform our psychology, which, as you know, as a chiropractor, and I'm sure your patients know, our psychology also informs our physiology. And this isn't just chiropractic. This is psychoneuroimmunology, the field of science. This is epigenetics. Like all of our fields of sciences are continuing to reveal the fundamental truth that it's all informing itself. And so to the extent that we do even one new thing, you know what, I'm just going to make sure I stay hydrated. I'm just going to make sure that I really honor my body and I do less caffeine and I do more clean, pure filtered water. I'm going to do it for 30 days. I'm just going to say yes to that. all of a sudden, that's a new input into your system that is life-giving, that is supportive, that is nourishing, right? That creates greater ease in the system. So I like to think of all these inputs as the right tool for the right job. You know, like when we don't have the right tools, how much harder is it to get the outputs that we need? But when you can start giving your body fundamentally more of the basic foundational right tools that it needs, it doesn't have to work as hard. So what does that mean? If you're not working as hard, you've got more energy, you've got more vitality, you've got more of you to share in all the ways that matter the most to you in your life.
If you had to pick three things that, for somebody that's listening to this, or maybe that picked up the book this month, that's reading it along with us, which, by the way, you can do so right now on Amazon. Get the book. What is it? 99 cents right now.
Yes, till the end of this month.
Okay. So yes, Amazon, it's Codes of Longevity, or just go to codesoflongevity.com and you can get it there. But if somebody's reading this and they're saying, okay, I'm ready to start doing something. You talked about hydration. What are maybe three things that you would give somebody to, we'll talk about more advanced things after that, but what are three things that somebody can start doing right now in addition to hydration?
I absolutely love it. So I like to, the book's broken down into mind, body, soul. So I'm going to give one tip from each right now. So mind is, it's intentionally set up that way because our mind is all of it. And so I love to share the story of Roger Bannister. You know, he was the first person to run the 4-minute mile when everybody, including doctors, scientists, said this is impossible. You run a 4-minute mile, your heart's going to explode. That was the story at the time. And yet Roger Bannister made the impossible possible, right? So we're sitting at this really fascinating time of thinking, okay, can I live to 120? First of all, gang, science says we absolutely can. So it's not a question of if we can, we can. So, you know, so let's just go ahead and go, well, okay, it's possible. Now, you may not know if you want to, because our current vision is just like you said, hey, a certain age means a certain affect, means, you know, medications, cane, decrepit, nursing home, whatever. So we have a current story and vision that doesn't really fully serve our potential and possibility. So number one is accessing your limitless mind and really kind of that longevity potential. And I love this disruptive idea of saying, well, what could be possible for you, right? So that all of a sudden you have a new way of kind of thinking, well, what if, how long is this even real for me? So here's what it is. With your mind, I want you to begin to just consider, tap into your possibility. And this is super easy. And I can't take full credit for this one, but I love it. And I actually interviewed Dr. Eric Plasker from the 100-Year Lifestyle. And we talked about this and I kind of shifted a little bit, but it's your longevity potential. So you essentially take the age of your oldest living relative and you subtract your current age. And you at minimum have that much life left. Okay, at minimum. Now add on easily another 20 years for new technology and innovation. And now you've got a real starting point of mentally, okay, this is what's possible for me. Okay, so now when we know, now we can start to decide if we want to do anything differently. Do I like how I'm feeling? Do I like how I'm living? Is this great? So I think step one is invite your mind to access new possibilities. Discover what could be possible for you, right? Just look through a different lens. Step two, when we go into the body, and I'm actually going to tell you two things that come up in the research. There's a lot of interesting things, but I'm going to give you one simple thing that you can do, right? So over and over and over and over again, as it's correlated with longevity, sleep, quality sleep, and movement are two of the largest predictors of longevity. Now, sleep is a longer conversation. I can tell you, hey, Nicole, make sure that you're getting, 7 to 9 hours of sleep, quality sleep. And you're gonna be like, great, Melissa, I've heard that everywhere. How the hell do I do that? Pardon me. And, and so that's a longer conversation. So what can you do right now, which is move? And I don't mean go exercise and increase your heart rate. Again, how do we affect our mind? How do we impact our autonomic nervous system? How do we impact how we show up, how we feel, how we focus, how we perform? It's your psychology and your physiology. And one of the fastest ways to reset your system is to simply reset your physiology. So what I mean by move is stand up, take 60 seconds, and just walk. Just walk around your room, it's kind of like walking to the water cooler. And all I want you to do during those 60 seconds of walking is just kind of just chill out, like let your brain soften and just focus on your breath in and out through your nose. Now, there's a couple of amazing things that happen. Your amygdala is immediately activated it's actually rather, I should say, kind of deactivated. So the amygdala is the emotion center of kind of agitation. So when we walk, there's this unknowing lateral eye movement that happens that kind of softens that. So it creates already a new state of mindfulness because we're kind of focused on walking, right? So we get out of our busy brain, we start to move, we increase circulation. We're going to focus on just a few soft breaths to regulate oxygen, carbon dioxide. So just simple movement, 60-second little breaks throughout the day. Change your physiology to change your brain and your body. And the last principle, I call it the flexibility principle. And what I mean by this, it's the flexibility. All centenarians have one core attribute in common. And this is this sense of novelty and looking forward. Like they know they feel like they're going to live forever, but they're not afraid to die. And they're always like, man, wait until you see what's going to happen in 3 years from now. There's always kind of this forward expansion. They do not get locked down into the worry, the stress, the strain, the what if, the trauma, the drama. Now, while there's natural hardwiring in our brain to seek threat, the more that we can stay flexible, and the easiest way I say this is just to have a learner's mind, a beginner's mind, a curiosity mind, right? Well, what if? That could be cool. Let me stay open. Let me stay flexible. Let me stay pliable versus rigid and locked in. So flexibility, movement, and the mindset piece of unlock the potential of your longevity age.
Perfect. That's a lot to work on right now, right there, for sure. And that's a simple steps, simple things that people can start working on now. So thank you for that. I'm sure a lot of people are going to get a lot out of that. Now, for the person that's more advanced that says, okay, I'm there. Mm-hmm. I am really interested in knowing more about my blueprint. Mm-hmm. And the more I read the book, that's what's happening to me. And I have a few other patients that's happening to, because what I'm reading is that, the diet that enhances my best potential may not be the same diet for your blueprint. And even though they're really good diets, both of them, one may not be good for me, whereas it's good for you. So how do we go about getting these genetic tests? And then what does that tell us? Where do we go from there?
Yeah, that's the right question. And I love it. All the work I do with my clients, again, it's so fascinating. There's nothing more exhilarating than having greater clarity and understanding around yourself. It's, and like, instead of, well, why does it work for that person and not for me? And that goes out the window, because now it's a real personal journey and roadmap. And what it typically comes down to are small, precise little tweaks. So it's not all of a sudden that your entire life has to be revamped. There's always a few core things that jump out right away. And to answer your question specifically, Dr. Nicole, so with the testing, there's a few ways. So if you just want to go to docmelissa.com, you're able to engage with me and let me know the information. So I do all the way from high level, right? Very precise longevity programs and packages. And I'm actually getting ready right now in the next 2 weeks to launch a 90-day boot camp. So to really kind of start with that lab package, the 3 one-on-one sessions with me, the group sessions, but there's a few ways. So I run an academy and I've got lots of coaches also. So there's kind of different options to meet different budgets depending on who you want to work with and the outcome you want to get. But let's just keep it easy. Go to docmelissa.com as far as right now. And the test kits, the ones that our company has developed and that we utilize are the one test kit on the market that actually look at the lifestyle levers. So it's not ancestry, it's not disease prediction. It's what are the greatest levers and SNPs that will predict and show your potential of places that you can immediately go in and take precise action. So it's that 75% is really driven by lifestyle, right? We can be an active co-creator and participant in the own expression and up-leveling of our health and thriving. So genetic test, it's super simple. It gets shipped out. It's a swab. All the information, safe, secure, proprietary, it gets like swiped off the servers within a 90-day period, only a barcode that connects you. So it's very, very encryptedly private and secure. The data, when it comes in, uploads onto our, again, enclosed, like we have blockchain servers, right? So nothing is in one place. Nobody can hack and get it. And I wish I would have prepared. I would have had the screen up and I could just kind of give you a little tour, but you have access to your dashboard and we've got all these different reports that we run and you get to go step by step. We have videos in there. So it's kind of a DIY version as well as a practitioner. I've got a client tomorrow morning. I'll be doing a full, profile with her. Everything from nutrition and sleep and supplementation to performance, environmental detox. Dr. Nicole is a huge one, not just looking at a methylation mark, right? But we look at so many factors from liver detoxification, environmental influences and inputs. And that's, in a lot of practices, you see a lot of chronic conditions. And there's typically environmental overload happening within those. We look at hormones, we're really looking at stress markers and stress SNPs as well. So we can give you a full picture of, like I said, here's the immediate things that we need to focus on. Here's the short term, here's the long term. And it's really exciting about knowing the right steps for you.
Yeah, this is definitely where healthcare needs to be. I mean, I know you feel that way. You're here. You're here doing it. But I mean, just imagine if everybody took care of themselves in this way. If everybody ate the way they needed to for their DNA, exercised the way, thought the way. I mean, how that would make such healthier, happier people, productive, I mean, creative. If all of us were tapping into what we are genetically predisposed to do at a higher level, I can't even imagine what this world would look like and how we'd be preventing so much in the interim, between.
That's the exciting part, right? Like that's what it really is. It's like creating your own longevity vision. It's like all of a sudden, what's super fun about all this is we're just really living in the most exciting time of humanity. We are here, and within the next 3 years, the stuff that's dropping in, the longevity industry is the most robust. It's over a $5 trillion industry. It is the biggest industry among industries. And so much money is poured into it, A, because we are living longer, but B, because we don't want to continue to tell the same story. People want to live longer and they want to live better, right? They want to continue to stay at full capacity for as long as possible. And so now we're sitting here at the precipice where, the research, the science, the technology, the innovation, the AI, like there's so much just kind of converging at once that's going to drop in, and literally in less than a decade, the way that healthcare is going to look, the way that our understanding of ourselves, the things that we're going to have access to are going to look so different. And in a really exciting way. To your point, we are going to have so much more personalization, less guessing, and we are going to have the opportunity, should we choose to accept it for ourselves, to really be able to confidently go, great, I get to be my best version of me because I choose to be. And here are simple ways, it is a lot easier than we think, gang, simple ways that I get to do this today. And then compounding interest over time, little bits by little bits, we add in more, we tweak this, we thank you, more of this, no thank you, less of that. It's like we are the architect of our own life, and it's absolutely stunning.
Yes, very, very much so, and empowering as well. As always, I like to end the podcast with the one simple thing that if you're listening to this, that you can start doing right now to get a more balanced life on the go, because that's what we're trying to do. We're busy parents, we're busy entrepreneurs, we're busy authors, we're busy everything, moms, dads. And if we can create more balance in our life, then let's do it. It's going to make us a better version of ourselves. So the one thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to get this book, get Codes of Longevity, and start reading it now. I think that's one of the best things you can do to influence your DNA to help you express your best health. So thank you, Dr. Melissa, for joining us today. And I hope these listeners reach out to you, get your book, and start enhancing their expression of their DNA.
Thank you. It was wonderful to be here.